Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to introduce a new mode for the manual 2D to 3D depth map tracking. Now it's a bit more involved than the traditional method, so I will go through that here, but it's well worth watching my other tutorial on 2D to 3D video conversion first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert a short video that I've got here. This video is just of someone walking towards the screen, fairly short HD video. So if you notice, one of the features of that is that as well as moving from side to side, the person's also getting bigger. They're changing in Z position, they're moving towards the camera. Now that hasn't been dealt with particularly well with the traditional tracking algorithm. So if I load that video now, and I'll show you, I have depth maps for a number of different frames within that video file. So every 30 to 50 frames, I've got a depth map. And you can see the person coming towards the screen, the depth map's getting lighter as he approaches the camera. So, and just for illustration, I'm going to use this new mode, which is test no tracking. So it just loads the depth map, so it doesn't actually do any warping, and it'll allow you to see what the new method is doing. So I'll do test no tracking, evolve from frame to frame. Now this is the standard way that it did it in earlier versions of 3D Combine. So select OK, and I'll save this as frame to frame. So you can see what's happening. So here's the image on the left and the depth map on the right. And as I tick through the frames, it picks up the appropriate depth map. So if I have a look, I've got depth maps at 52, 83, 114. So as I reach those frames, the software should pick the depth map up. So if we wait for 52, we should see it pick it up. Now what I want you to notice when we hit frame 52 is that there'll be a jump in the brightness of the person. It's not a smooth transition. There you go. You see it got brighter, and that will be carried through into the final processed video. There's no current way to interpolate that depth change. And again, you'll watch as we hit frame 80, 83 I think it is, you'll see a step change in the brightness. There we go. Okay, so it's okay, but that's going to be a bit jarring when you're trying to watch the final video. So the new function that's available does two things. The first, it refers back to the original depth map. So rather than evolving the depth map, it will always look to the difference between the current picture and the original depth map, which can be useful in certain scenes anyway. But it's particularly useful in this mode where it allows us to see the changes in brightness, because what it will also do is it will also look forward to the next keyframe and work backwards. Now I know this sounds a little bit confusing, but that's what these depth maps are, where they've got the _1b. When you're in this new mode, they will be used as bidirectional, so it will work forward from that keyframe and also backwards from it for the previous one. So for example, frames between 1 and 52 will use both depth map 1b and 52b. And in order to enable this, because the video hasn't reached the image for the frame, you also need one of these image files. So you'll see image _52b matches to depth map _52b, and that enables this bidirectional tracking. So let me show you what I mean. So it's the same function, 2D to 3D, process the depth maps, again no tracking, but this time instead of evolve from frame to frame, I'll say refer back to the original. I'll save the video, refer back. Okay, so at first it looks exactly the same as it did before, but what you should start to see is as we approach frame 52, rather than just using the original depth map or using the future depth map, it's using a combination of the two. So the person's brightness slowly starts to increase, so slowly and smoothly rather than the jarring way that it did before. So you see we're about halfway now, and you can start to see the brightness picking up. And then as we approach frame 52, you'll just see a nice smooth transition into the new depth map, rather than that jarring jump that we saw before. It's slower because it's doing twice as much work. It's working with two depth maps, it's doing two sets of tracking. But it will give you a nice smooth transition. There we go, you see 52, didn't even see it happen. Likewise, as we approach frame 83, you saw the transition, and because there's a change in shape and we're not doing any tracking, you can actually see here where the arms are, it's starting to just smoothly move into depth map 83. Now this is just for, this test mode is literally just for test mode to make sure everything's working, it's picking up the depth maps as it should, which it is. So I'll stop there. So hopefully you can see the difference. If I just try and play that back now as a video, you'll see that before it jumped. So we passed a keyframe threshold and the depth just jumped. Whereas now, it's a much smoother transition, and this is before we do any tracking. So you can see that it slowly gets brighter, approaches the keyframe, then moves on to the next one. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the tracking as well. So process depth maps, we're going to do the refer back mode, and we're going to use a nice high quality track. And we're going to refer back to the original. Frame to frame again. Sorry, refer back. What have I done wrong here? I'm not sure, it's got itself in a state. Let me just go new, clear out the workspace, and do that again. Okay. In fact, I'll do it quickly and then you can see in real time. Otherwise this is going to be a very long tutorial. So refer back to the original. Okay. So it's basically the same as before. So it's going to use both keyframes, but this time it's going to track forward from keyframe 1 to the current frame and backwards from keyframe 52 to the current frame. So you shouldn't see you shouldn't see the two images transition. You should just see the resulting depth map get brighter. Okay, and you can see we're starting to get there. We're starting to approach frame 52, which is where the next keyframe is. I'm not seeing any jarring changes, and as we come to that keyframe, we just get a nice smooth transition into that new keyframe and then away to the next, and it starts off after 83. Now because we've got the tracking as well, then we shouldn't see that that fading from one depth map to another. We should hopefully see the depth map track the video much more effectively. And obviously I've got this in quick mode. If you did this in high quality mode, the results would be even better. There we go. You see that nice smooth transition, frame 83 and then onwards. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let that run and I'll skip ahead and then we'll see what the result looks like. Okay, we're starting to come to the end of the video now. One other thing just to quickly point out, if you have a video with multiple scenes in it, then you still want to use the keyframes as before. So the first depth map of any new scene shouldn't have the B, otherwise you'll interpolate back from a different scene. That makes sense. So you only want B frames within any given scene. So that's more or less there. We've got 200 frames, so I'll stop it there. And I'll just play it back. So here we go. As you can see, really nice smooth transition now. No jumping. So it's transitioning, tracking from frame to frame. There's a little bit of noise. Some of that is due to the quick depth map processing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the post-processing to clean it up anyway. So I load the video. Okay, and then I'm going to save this as refer back post. And basically it's just going to go through each of those depth map frames, post-processing it to clean it up and better match the source video. So again, this is a high definition clip. It's going to take a little while. So what I'm going to do is skip ahead and show you the finished result. Okay, so we're almost there. It's just about finished, so it's tracking the last few frames of the depth map now. As you can see, they're evolving nice and smoothly, they're nice and clean, and hopefully they're going to make a really nice 3D video at the end of this. Okay, that's fair enough. So well, it's about to finish anyway. Okay, so let's have a look at that video now. So a bit of noise, but it's tracking him quite nicely. I'll play it one more time. And you see how smooth the depth changes are. Okay, so now the final step, I just need to convert that to stereo. So I select my post-process video. I'll take the defaults. In fact, I'm going to do this as a color anaglyph so everyone can see it. Output 3D. And if I move that out of the way, so you can see this is now a color anaglyph video. And it's slowly tracking the depth maps through. Again, probably what I'm going to do is just pause it and let it run. Okay, so it's nearly done processing these frames. Just the last few to go. Okay, so let me pull up the 3D video and you can see what it looks like. If I can shrink it down a bit. There we go, let's try that again. Okay. As you can see, a really nice, smooth change in depth throughout the scene. Okay, that's almost it. One final point. You may well find that you've got the depth maps but not the images, especially if you've previously created non-B-frame depth maps and you want to rename them to B-frames, but you haven't got the images. 3D Combine will actually create them for you. So if I just replace the first 3 image frames with blank frames, what I can do is go use the test mode that I used before. So here's my source video file. Ah well, that's what you get with an extended live demo. Let's try that again. So let me load the video that I did before and select test mode. Refer back to the original. Okay, so for each of the B frames, I've got an image frame, but it's blank. It's no use. But when I run test mode now, what it will do, because in test mode it doesn't need these images anyway, as it reaches the frame, it will replace it with the appropriate image. So you can see it's already got the first one there, and as we approach frame 52, it will also replace that one. So it has to obviously play through to get the frame. Okay, so we're approaching frame 52. And as we get there, you should see frame 52 gets replaced with an image. So that's a quick way to create the images if you've got the depth map but not the matching images. Also, if you've created the images in a different program, you might find they're subtly different, and that creates distortions in the depth map. So again, just letting 3D Combine run through it and output these images will just make sure that everything syncs up nicely. So that's probably worth doing anyway. Okay, and without labelling the point, as we get to frame 83, you should see it right out that frame 2. Okay, and that's it.